Everyone would love to have a Final Four hosted in Kaunas. Well, someday, could you imagine it happening in like 5 years? And if not, what seriously will hold you from seriously considering Kaunas?
We will consider serious Kaunas. I think that it's clear our position. We have everything here except infrastructure, some infrastructure. And I have this conversation with authorities, of course with the club, but basically it's about this, because the best fan base the best fan base in Europe, the best arena in Europe, almost is compulsory to take a Final Four in Kaunas. Now we have to solve these, let's say, logistics things that are important, since Final Four is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And this year we have a Final Four in Vitoria. You will see, okay, Vitoria is not more or less the same, but it's not Vitoria, it's Basque Country. We have 3 cities involved. We have San Sebastián, Bilbao, Vitoria. We will have activities everywhere, so it's a different thing. So we have to be creatives also, because we have been creatives in Vitoria, so we have to be creatives here in Kaunas. But I think that especially accommodation is an issue, and probably the bigger one. And I'm sure with the time that will be solved, and then as soon as solved, we will land here, for sure.
In FIBA house in Geneva is new boss, Andres Zaklis, and how can progress talks with the FIBA, and can Euroleague to find some compromise to move some game dates to open players in the FIBA World Cup windows?
Well, we have a new boss, unfortunately, for the reason that we all know. We did not have the opportunity to have conversations with the new management in FIBA. I think that we do not feel that we are in conflict with FIBA. Clearly, FIBA has a program with the national teams competitions that include windows, something that we cannot share, we cannot be part, we cannot help, because we have a competition that in the last 18 years has been managed and administrated without any interruption in the competition. And I think that they have to make the FIBA is the one who have to write the assessment about these windows, if they are happy, if they believe that has been interesting and useful for the growth of basketball, and if they believe that has been good, probably they will decide to stay with the windows. So that we cannot do anything. We have to respect their position. But if they believe that probably different alternatives of the one we have been presented in the past, in the recent past, in the beginning of the year, last year, beginning of 2018, and then that will be also their decision. So we have we have nothing to say. It's clear that from the very beginning, we said we cannot be part of this, as NBA said we cannot be part of this, and they decided to go ahead with the program. And if they are satisfied with the results, I think that if they are consistent, they will keep with the same program. If they are not satisfied, they will change. But we have to respect both situations. But it's not about negotiations, because there is a calendar where we have to respect, and we believe that the players' competitions, our opinion. So the national team competition should be played with the best players. That's a matter of principle. So it's not about to move one date here or to reduce this. We have to make a calendar that allows the best players to be on the court, because national teams are very important, and this is a fraud for the fans. The current system probably have another advantage that, but clearly have this issue. The best players are not in the court. But these are options. Each organization have their own priorities. They said that has been a very good experience. I believe that it's very good that the national teams play official games at the home soil. I think this is really great. But it's not necessarily have to happen in November and February. That can happen in June, July. So the idea is not linked with the windows. We will see what will be their decision after the World Cup, and we will respect their decision anyway.
With 18 teams next season, we will be 10 teams which will not be playing in playoffs. And as we're seeing this year, as we saw last year, with like 5 games left, there are teams which plays for nothing. Are there plans of changing playoff system so that not 10 teams would be out of playoffs, or maybe just 6?
Well, probably it's very risky what I'm going to say, but I don't know any competition in the world, including all the sport, that at certain point of the season there are clubs that are playing for nothing. That's happened many times. That happened also in the Champions League sometimes. So happen in all the domestic leagues in football. So I think that and happened with the most recognized competition, which is the NBA, and people don't see an issue with this. So the question is why we have an issue with this, because teams has been playing in the Euroleague with no hope to play the playoffs, but still competing, still winning games, still impacting on the ranking, impacting on the playoff indirectly, because our teams are very professional. They know that when they go to the court, they have to perform, they have to win, because this is about to build the product. And I think that if you go back to the 18 EuroLeague seasons, you will have many examples of games where one team had nothing to do with the result, with not interesting for them, and they won. And the opposite team probably was trying to qualify for the next phase or for the playoff, and they lost. And this, we have plenty of cases in 18 EuroLeague seasons. But it's natural to happen in all the sports. At a certain point of the season, there are few teams that has no chance to qualify. A different aspect is to introduce some relegation system, but in the current model that makes no sense. So I think the most important thing is that the clubs are competing, the clubs understand how important it is, and we can see that our teams are doing very well. And I have no complaint in terms of how our teams are performing this year, as was the case last year and the previous ones. But it's natural in the structure of the competition, happen everywhere.
So in EuroLeague, always looking to the future, and what is your vision? 18 teams next season. What will be? How many teams will play in EuroLeague after maybe 2 years, or maybe 4 years, maybe 10 years?
Well, 10, who knows? Probably you will have another guy with the press conference, so probably ask him when that's happened. But in 2 years, that I hope I still will be here with you. I think that we are now in the process of consolidating the model. I personally don't see an expansion of the number of teams in the next 4 or 5 years, because we have to consolidate what we have. We always rush to make change in basketball, sometimes too many times. No? So we have this system. I believe the system is being consolidated. We will add 2 more teams next year, because it's very important to add important markets like Germany and France, good brands like Bayern Munich. That will definitely help the growth of the league. But the future, I believe that we have to think more when we talk about the expansion of the league. When we talk that we want to have a team in London, we want to have a team. When we are saying these things, because it's true, we are looking in this direction when talking about the future. our view is that this expansion will not imply an enlargement of the number of the teams, but to make a substitution for some of the current domestic leagues, something like this, but not the number. So my belief is that the 18 will be the number. First, because the calendar, again, back to the point of compatibility with the domestic league, do not allow us going further than 18 without the risk to damage the leagues. From the other side, because the key of the success of the EuroLeague is the quality. And quality and quantity not always go hand by hand. So 18, we believe it's the right number in terms of balance, the quality of the teams, the distribution in the European territory, and to be compatible in the calendar side. This is our view now. So answering, sorry for the long answer, I believe that we will stay in 18 teams for some times in the future. 10 years, I cannot answer. We have a question.
Yes. If you recall that last November, Žalgiris filed a complaint about a shot clock incident in Moscow. What's your opinion about such incidents, which is not the only incident in EuroLeague of that kind?
It's not the only. No. Well, I think the EuroLeague opinion was clear. We really we cannot be happy when we have this kind of mistakes. I think that we explain what happened and we apologize for what happened, as has been the case later on also with Žalgiris being involved in another game. So we made mistakes. That's true. So we cannot. Probably this mistake was something very unusual for so many years. What gives us the idea that even the things that we believe are working properly, we have to keep being more, paying more attention to this. We trust the table officials of each one of our teams, including Moscow. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the table officials in Moscow were not performing at the level that the competition deserves. It was a substitution of all these members, so we react. But as these are mistakes that, of course, we regret, but we cannot do anything else. There is another question.
Just one question about EuroCup, maybe two questions. Lithuania has one spot, right? That's the spot for Lithuanian league and not for the team like Rytas. It's just for the league. Yes. Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
No, I need the help of Ed, that he is the one who knows the details. It's one team for the league, yeah, according to the ranking.
Okay. And currently, there are two teams from Spain left in EuroCup, and there are two teams from Spain left in EuroCup. And there were some talks about not having 5 Spanish teams in EuroLeague. So, what happens if a team from Spain wins in EuroCup with Spanish championship?
As an exception, one year we had 5 Spanish teams in the league. The exception was as a consequence of the previous year when we reduced from 24 to 16. The Spanish league had no right to qualify one team for the EuroLeague, so we compensated the following year. But that was an exception. According to the rules, the maximum number of teams from the same countries is 4. And if one Spanish team is the EuroCup champion, it means that the Spanish league will not qualify any team to the EuroLeague, so the Spanish representative will be the EuroCup champion, who has priority over the champion over the team coming from the domestic league. So there is no way, and there is no options for the Spanish team to have 5 Spanish teams or 5 teams from the same country in the competition.
Okay, can you share your view about EuroCup? How many teams will play in EuroCup?
No, again, I think the EuroCup needs also time for consolidation. I think in the last years we we have this structure, which is 24 clubs, we believe is the real dimension for the second level of European competition. 3 years ago, we had some issues with the clubs because they were under very huge pressure from their federations to go to the FIA competitions, but fortunately, we are now, let's say, more or less in the normal environment. So today we have all the clubs we want, all the clubs we need. The clubs understand that the Eurocup is the second tier competition in Europe. The clubs understand that if the ambition and the vision is to go to Euroleague, Eurocup is a must. They understand that is important to be part of this, and our idea is to increase the number of teams that will go from the Eurocup to the Euroleague. So we will start talking with our clubs about this in the next meetings, because the level of the Eurocup clubs deserve to have more teams awarded with spots in the Euroleague. So will be an extra motivation also for the Eurocup teams participating in this competition. So we are working on that. We will start talking with our clubs in the next board meeting, and not for the next year, but we will try to implement this idea the sooner the better. But basically consistent, instead of having one team from the Eurocup to the Euroleague, probably having the champion and the runner-up. That is the idea, basically.
Тук-тук. Кастинг. Сибиркалте.